Welcome to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast, the place where you'll get inspired to live your life unapologetically, embrace your perfect imperfections, and do what sets your soul on fire. I'm your host, Lunden Souza. Hey, before we jump into this episode, I just want to make sure that you get all the free things possible. If you haven't already, you need to get your Self-Love and Sweat free monthly life coaching calendar. Honestly, the way to experience deep change in your life is by doing small little things over time. And so that's what you'll find in this free calendar. You can get it by going to lifelikeLondon.com/calendar. Get yours for free, and let's get into today's episode. Look what time it is.
I saw that. I just looked at it. 3:33.
Well, and we were just talking for like.
With us.
We were just talking for
White
like
on white
15.
on white.
Yeah.
White on white.
We were just all talking for like 15 minutes, and then I was like, "Oh, we need to press record," and so we pressed record. It's 3:33. I love it.
It is.
You guys comfortable?
Yeah.
Right where you want to be. What do you think of the camera angle? Should I adjust
I
it a
normally
little
like
bit?
to sit on Rachel.
Yeah, we normally like that.
That's okay.
This feels perfect.
We like to do podcasts.
Yeah, like
that.
Wait, that's you guys are the amazing.
Why don't I scoot this actually?
Just like this.
I'm going to scoot it more this way.
Yeah.
So that way it's actually more
For sure.
there. That feels a little better, right?
Gotta get my hair right, you know what I mean?
Yeah, then it just feels a little bit more.
Welcome to the table, neighbors.
Yeah.
I'm so excited we were just, for those listening, I wish we would have pressed record on the last 15 minutes, but it's always nice to catch up with you guys on or off the mic. And I know that all of us are out in the world creating, doing our thing. And so sometimes it does work out when we can press record.
That's a ring. That was a ring sound.
It's fine. It's with us.
They're here. But I feel like, it's nice when we can collab on and off the mic, because I just love what you guys are doing and all the things.
And we love you.
I love you too. I know. I feel like it's been too long. You're such an incredible spirit and energy. And I'm like, gosh, why aren't we like hanging out more often? I know
Because we're always all over the world.
But it's like, out of all the people that you want to like surround yourself just like with good energy and good vibes and high vibrations and just like loving and supporting each other, you know what I mean? Like we're always like making sure that we're always surrounding ourselves with people like that, right? And like you definitely embody that. So here we are. Yeah.
I appreciate you guys. We're neighbors. We met in such a cool way.
Mm-hmm.
And I know those listening are so excited to get to know you. And I feel like the last time we were together was our Friendsmas.
Yeah, our Friendsmas. We did.
And this is what we did Friendsmas. And then to speaking what you said about like energetics, we met like a lot of your friends and a lot of the people that are in your circle. And then I was at my other friend, Elisa, who's been on the podcast. I was at her birthday, and 2 people came up to me and they were like, "We know you. Like, where have we seen you?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And then in a split second moment, I go, "Oh, do you guys know Rachel and Emilio?" Because it's just like their vibe.
Yeah.
And I was
Funny.
we have to know you guys. And he goes, "Yeah, I was at Friendsmas. I was the sloth."
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh,
That's so great.
The sloth. Who was this,
Yes,
Justin?
that's Bree and her. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking.
Bree?
I know what you're talking
Brenda?
about. Yes, no.
No.
Bree,
She had longer hair. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Anyways, it was so funny because to the point of like just wanting to surround yourself with people that vibrate in a way that just helps you feel alive and engaged and showing up even when it's hard.
Yes.
I felt that from them. And they were like, "How'd you know?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just kind of knew."
amazing.
And then I was like, "Are you from California?" And they said no, and kind of told me where they were from. But they were like, "Why'd you say that?" They were kind of, I was like, "No, just something about the way you kind of walked up and showed up. I just figured I met, because I have my close friends and people that I connect with, and I know that I don't see you guys a ton, but I probably make more time to do the things that we do than I do with other people, like you, Bryson, like some of the neighbors and stuff. So I just feel like, that connection is super cool, and I love.
Well, and I'm so grateful for you because when we moved to Utah, it was way harder for me than I thought it was going to be. It was like way more of an adjustment. And I remember the first time we met, our friends and had invited us to one of your events. And it was one of those times when I was like, I don't want to go, because I was not feeling great about myself. I just was kind of in not a great state. But I had this feeling like, you need to go. Like, you need to get yourself out of the house. You need to go meet people and you need to go. And it was like a far drive. And I just remember the whole time being like, even when we got there, right before, I went into the bathroom and I cried. Because I was just like, God, what is this? I just have such deep sadness, and I was going through such a hard time. And I just felt like no part of me wanted to meet anyone. At the same time, all I wanted to do was meet people. You know, it's that those parts of us that are like, yeah. So anyways, but I was like, okay, God, I surrender. Like, I'm just going to show up, and I'm just here. I'm just here. Whatever happens, I'm just here. And at that event, meeting you and several people there, it was like, oh, there are really cool people here. Because I think I had created this story that I wasn't going to find cool people here like I did in LA. And your energy was just this light energy. And I was like, oh, that's the energy. Like that, you know, like that's anyway. So it was just such a beautiful, and that event, the meditation we did, the people I met, it was such a significant, pivotal moment on my journey of transition here. So thank you.
I love the way we met, and I love that moment. And I think we both chose where we live because we have this lake. It's man-made and it's beautiful, and we love where it is. Yes. But we both were like, if we're not going to be next to the water in SoCal, then we need to be like near water where we can like stand up paddleboard and be. But the interesting part about that for those listening, so we met at our Dinner on Purpose event in Provo, Utah, which is about 40-ish minutes from where we even live, right? Don't know each other. Come as strangers, leave as friends is what we say for Dinner on Purpose. And we connect and then realize that you live like a 5-minute walk from where I live. And it's wild. So yesterday, Haley, my partner with Dinner on Purpose, right? So yesterday we went out into this field by her house and we did a walking meditation. And afterwards I was just like, oh my gosh, when I was doing that walking meditation, I just felt so much gratitude for all the puzzle pieces that got me to her, because I went to a Dr. Joe retreat. I met Kevin. Kevin introduced me to Haley. Haley was living in Denver. Now Haley moved to Utah. We're close. Then me and Haley and Kevin do Dinner on Purpose. Then I met you guys, right? To just continue what happened and what I thought about in the meditation yesterday. I fucking love that about life. Yes. And then we were talking so much before the mic about death and our thoughts about death and being in that like limited present time frame of like, we have shit to do and we're all, you know, I just felt like in that moment and just sitting here too, making, you know, even more threads of connections. And when you zoom out on that, that is like so cool. So in all the moments of where it's hard and you're crying in the fucking bathroom, it's like, you can look back later and be like, okay, I needed that. And it was worth that cry session to meet you. And I remember just, it was our first one. Are people going to come? Is it going to be cool? Like, is the meditation going to be weird? Are they going to like Dr. Joe's voice? Like just all the little stuff.
For sure.
All the things that come up when you're creating anything. All of the things.
Rachel and Emilio, you guys are both, this is my interpretation of how I would intro you. I didn't plan an intro. You guys are both creators in this world. You both have an incredible journey and story individually and collectively. And I love hearing bits and pieces about it when I can. You guys are actors and have made movies together and done, you know, stuff on camera separately and together and do fun stuff. And then you have Relationship Renegades, which is your company about relationships and the dynamics of individual and collective healing, feeling, and living life in a happy, relationship, right? Yeah. That's what I would say. But what would you add? And let's, wherever one of those avenues you feel like we want to discuss first. I feel like there's so many
topics. No, I think you did a great job of a very just organic intro about us. And I love that you started with, you guys are both creators. In my opinion, I feel like we're all creators. And I think one of our missions is to help people wake up to that fact of the power that we all have to literally create whatever kind of life we want. And I think it's when we fall into the victim mindset of, oh, somebody's there to come save me, or I don't have the power of choice, or I'm stuck, or I'm limited. That's when havoc can wreak on your life. So I think, a big part of both my journey, his journey, and Relationship Renegades together was to help empower people, to remind them that you can create the love and lifestyle that you've always wanted, and that it is possible. And that a lot of times the contrast that you go through in life and in relationships is one of the best gifts like all of our really unhealthy, toxic relationships that we went through before meeting each other allowed us to have these superpowers now that enable us to have such deep appreciation for each other and every little small and big thing that, at least for me, I don't think I would have that deep appreciation, like the deep appreciation that makes me like cry every day and helps us navigate even the hardest of times together, because you know the opposite really well. And you have enough pain around old habits, old patterns, and things you have to break through that you're not even the pain like catapults you to choose the opposite, to choose a different choice, to make the brave choice. Sometimes the harder choice, to have the hard, brave conversations. That is the way to having healthy relationships. So I know it's a little bit about what I think, but also I'd love to hear from you.
Well, I love that you talked about, when you were talking about like you can create the love and lifestyle you've always wanted. When I think about, everyone's living a different lifestyle out there. And, when you were talking even earlier and then about how I would call them like serendipitous moments, when you're like, oh, I met this person, that led me to this, which led me to that. And then there's like all this like serendipity happening. Right. And I think there's times where when you're like tapped in and aligned and like present and grounded and like and living in your purpose, you don't have to necessarily live in your purpose. Let's just call it aligned, that those things start to happen a whole lot more. Right. And so like you can create a heaven on earth experience for yourself, but then you could also create a hell on earth experience for you as well. And I certainly created, I feel like life's just a roller coaster, and I do my best to like continue to tap in and be aligned daily, right?
Hands up.
Yeah.
Hands up, here we go. Roller coaster.
Yeah. But I think, I think when you're talking about what's important to you with creators, I think what's important to me, the mission of Relationship Renegades is to co-create a world where healthy, happy relationships are the new norm. Just because we feel the societal norm is based on toxic and failed relationships, and we want to help change that. So we do that in a variety of ways, traditional model, we have a creative model because we are also in the TV and film world. And I think at the end of the day, I just want to be able to like on my deathbed, since we're talking about death, to make sure that I gave away all my gift, talents, and strengths, that I completely just used it to the max, right? Like I think that's one of my biggest fears is that I'm not using it to the full capacity, right? The sticky note that you have there, the time is now, right? Like to always play big and to always help people as much as we can with our gifts, talents, and strengths. And so I'm excited that I was able to find Rachel about almost 8 years ago so that we can do this together.
Yeah. And I know we're looking over at the thing. On my fridge, I've talked about this on the podcast before. And one time my friend Danny came over and he like thought I was going to like take my life. He was like, is this a sign? I was like, no. He's like, that's so
it's literally
weird.
A sign. It's on your refrigerator.
He had like a heart-to-heart moment with me. And I've lost people to suicide, so I'm not making a joke about it at all. But he literally was concerned. I'm like, no, actually, this is exactly what you said. Like, I want to get to the end of my life looking back on like all the different versions of me and the evolution and growth and not staying the same and saying I used to be that way and now and I love that becoming process. And I know I'm not in a relationship and it's a big thing within your own personal life. And I know that's been like that, but how have you navigated, you've been together 8 years, right? That's, and more to come of like growth and change. And how do you navigate your individual change and then like
growing together?
Yeah.
No, I think that's such a great question. I was actually talking about this with my cousin recently because he's 23. He really, even at 23, he's like one of those guys who's like, I want to find my person. Like, I think he's earlier than most. But really navigating, he's like, how do I really know? Like, what are the things to look for in a relationship? Because I was with this girl who I felt so deeply connected to. Yet when he was describing her behavior, I was like, what you're describing is like bipolar. Like it was crazy ups and downs, crazy shit of like being the most amazing human ever. And then like the most not. And I could realize, because I've been in relationships like that where they're very manipulative, very narcissist, and they can be such a mind fuck. And I was really helping him navigate. So I'm like, here's the thing, because they actually had different belief systems. So religious belief systems, which for some people, that's a deal breaker. But what I've found on my journey and our journey has been that regardless of any sort of belief systems, people will change. And throughout a span of a lifetime, I think in relationships, what has been the most important quality about a person, because knowing that like in someone's lifespan, if they don't change at all, one, I think that's kind of something to look at. And then also knowing that like humans were supposed to evolve and grow and expand. And in that expansion, if you're a person that is not open to that expansion, or you don't know how to hold space for that, a lot of people, we get taught as humans to be scared of change. That it's a scary thing if someone else changes and you don't really have control over that. And you think you have control, and then it has all these kinds of, I feel like, very unhealthy behaviors can come out. So learning, one, how to create a space within yourself where you feel very safe, seen, heard, and loved, but also choosing a partner, especially a life partner, who is able to be someone that can navigate change and hold space for you as you change, and hold space for themselves as they change. And I think that's something I'm the most grateful for in our relationship is we've both changed a lot since we've been together. And I think even when we got married, it was this deep knowing of already have gone through some really hard shit together, and seeing how he showed up in the hardest moments, and also how he showed up when I had shared my darkest secrets. Like when I was able to share my darkest things with him, and he said, I love you even more now because you shared that with me. It was like the biggest healing moment, because in other relationships, one, I would hide all my truth. I would hide stuff because I was too scared of being honest, because I felt like if I wasn't what they wanted me to be, then they would reject me, and I didn't want to go through that. So I would just hide stuff. So it has been my pattern of breaking that habit and pattern and speaking fully, like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And this is what I've done, this is what I've been through, and this is what I've learned. And so I feel like it's a long-winded answer, but I think to wrap it up, the most important quality is knowing that people will change. And so are you with someone, can you look for that quality in someone where they can navigate and hold space for change and growth, celebrate it, and also you as the other individual be able to do the same. Because a lot of people actually really aren't able to do that. It's very challenging.
Yeah, afraid of that change and what that might mean. In the best case, and what you guys found, it's like, yes, let's fucking go, like empowered growth. But for some people, it's like a threat to their survival, and this person's going to change, and I'm not going to be there with it, and I'm going to lose that person. So let me degrade you or hold stuff from you so that you don't do that.
You don't grow. Well, look, my parents were together for 50 years. And for half of that, like, it's a long time, half of that, they had the same religious beliefs. And that's what a lot of their marriage is based on. And then kind of into that, something happened that we thought would never, ever happen, was my dad decided that wasn't his truth anymore. And I thought for sure my parents are getting divorced, like for sure. But they are still together. And they've been a beautiful example of you can love. I call it loving beyond belief, which is really more of this divine kind of love that can hold space for all truths at the same time and just love and accept. And honestly, that is the kind of love that heals. The other kind of love is very conditional, and it actually creates a lot more separation and disconnection and hatred and fear. And so I think it's really understanding too the difference between that really divine unconditional love and conditional love. And it's a lot of work. Like, it's hard work to show up in that divine love, but I do feel like it's worth it. We just went through something like yesterday that where we got to re-experience that. But I know I said a lot, so I want you to get to kind of share.
No, we're just soaking it up and listening and loving. I think, to add to that, I think, there's so many different people that have different types of relationships, and there's never any judgment about how people want to live their relationship. I think we choose to have a really deep and really a growth type of relationship. And that requires a lot of, emptying the cup, because we've been self-development junkies for a long time. And it's like, no matter what person, place, thing, experience, book, conference, what have you, it's like to have that beginner's mind of emptying the cup and filling that back up, learning from her, learning from each other.
So empty cup, you mean like ready to learn, ready to absorb?
Yeah, because like if I have a full cup, right, then I can't put anything in there anymore, right? Like, so I have to like empty the cup so I can get it refilled, right? Because if your cup is completely full, then you're never going to learn anything anymore. You think you know it all, then you're just going to continue to just be like this. You're never continually evolving and all that. And I believe that life to me is not necessarily linear. It's very just like it's constantly in a circle over and over and over, and that you're learning sort of the same lessons in tests, if you will. And when you pass those, you're sort of getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the wisdom and more depth into the conversation. Like the more depth, like I feel like every time we go through something or we go through a ceremony or we change individually or collectively, that like Rachel just becomes this like literally like a whole new person. I'm like, gosh, whoa. It's like another layer of beauty and then another layer of beauty and then another layer of beauty. And so whether it's the person or the experience or life, I think things just get like, I'm all about just creating like you can absolutely create a heaven on earth. And it's the mind, right? Like if I create a story in my head, because this is the number one human impediment, right? People create a story in their head about a person, place, or thing. They're judging, right? It's a human impediment. They fuse to that story. Emotions arise from that story. And then the next thing you know, you've created your own suffering, right? So I create a hell experience by getting into guilt and shame and anger and all these things. Or I can just get back in the present moment where none of that exists, reset, breathe, etc., right? And then think about some renewing emotions, right? Get into a peaceful state, all those things. And so sort of back to the relationship, I think you can always create whatever reality you want. And I think when you're navigating growth individually and collectively, I think it's important to, like Rachel was saying, well, let me kind of back up a little bit. I think just overall, everybody can have whatever relationship they want, but like we choose to have that higher love, this higher conscious growth type of love, which requires a lot. But if you choose to do that and choose to hold space with each other and choose to have hard conversations and choose to be committed to growth and to seek to understand each other and to just become love while you're going through all these things, or certain like principles we go through, then the other end of that is like a heaven on earth experience. It's this deeper love and deeper connection that I never thought I could experience. And it's like, it sounds maybe cheesy to say, but it's so true. Like it seems like another planet or another reality when you actually decide to like do the work together. And then on the other end of that, it's like, wow, like we are so much more deeply connected. And then it just becomes this fun, playful, beautiful experience. And people don't need to always do that and go deep all the time. But like if you choose to, it can be rough at times, but it's just so, to me and to us, it's like the greatest gift. It becomes like a Christmas every day.
Yeah, you're like unlocking new levels, to use your like
100%.
video game analogy. But separately and then together. And it's reacting from the place of that story. I saw something on social media. It was like this video of two people coming to an argument in the relationship, right? It was a man and a woman coming together, and then it would flash from them being adults to being little kids yelling at each other.
I love it.
And it was so good because I'm paraphrasing, but like the message of it was like, if sometimes one kid and one adult come to the conversation, that can be okay, right? In best case, obviously two adults healing, but whatever. And then, vice versa, if one is the adult and the other one's the child. But when two children come together to that fight, there's like, so how do you, right? How do you not get to that point? And of course, we're all human. We all fuck up, do-overs, love them, this life, great. But like, that I loved that video because as they were kind of morphing and you're like, oh yeah. And then I had a recent situation where I was like, that just clicked for me, where I was like, oh yeah, it wasn't me, present moment me coming to the conversation. It was little me, little you, who was feeling something like, so what happens when little Rachel and little Emilio come to the table? Do they often? And then like, what are maybe some of the principles like you mentioned where you kind of navigate that shit because it's every day and you have to be really present for it.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I'm about to write a book about that.
Yeah. We're working on a book right now. And well, first of all, I think, people listening, I love that video. I can't wait to see it. But that principle, we talk about often. I was just actually doing a huge workshop, like speech with like hundreds of men who were all construction workers, big macho men. And a lot of these principles they hadn't heard before. And we were talking about, anytime, if there is something you went through, we call it trauma, but it's basically anytime you didn't feel safe, seen, heard, or loved throughout your life, most of the time when you were young as a kid, if you haven't processed that trauma or just hard, challenging thing you went through, a lot of times a part of you gets stuck there. So say, and it could be like the littlest thing of like, I really wanted to be on the dance team when I was 10 years old and they didn't pick me. And
so now I'm not going to get picked by him.
I'm not going to get picked. So I have this story now because that was so hard for me. And I created that story of like, I'm not good enough. I don't get picked. So then that I fuse to that story. I create all these emotions from that story. And that now becomes my reality. It's how I see the world. It's what I project into the world. And so we don't realize that oftentimes, like you said, we're not talking to an adult. We're talking to a child, that child version of them that part of them is still stuck at that age in that particular part of life. And I've seen our little us come up in the craziest of times. And also I think what's also beautiful is like, that's the child that if you've ever been with an adult and they're like throwing a tantrum or you see yourself throwing a tantrum, that's pretty much what's happening. It's like, and in the moment, you're like, what is happening? And you're just filled with rage and anger and all this stuff. And you almost feel like you can't control it because all your defenses and your protective mechanisms are showing up. And at the same time, if there is a lot of healing from past experiences, you can also I see our little kids just playing together all the time. Ultimately, that's what a lot of our relationship feels like, is because we have done so much work on healing past traumas and rewriting narratives. And in that space, I also think that's what allows the most freedom and playfulness to happen, where you just feel like you're just like two little kids that are playing. And it feels so safe and free and it's my favorite. Like, I love it so much. So, but I want to get back to your story. I just wanted to kind of talk about that, where you can get stuck at that age and that's that part of you. Yeah. And maybe because I talked for a while, do you want to go into like the principles where we kind of work
with? Bounce back with that. Yeah. So a lot of our clients, a lot of times will tell us like, they don't know how to communicate, right? Like if they're stuck in a kid, they got triggered or something like that, for instance, and all of a sudden there's either the kid on kid or the adult kid, whatever the situation is. I think when we think about like the new higher love or divine love, like we want to talk about like the rules of engagement.
That when you say higher love, you said it twice, it makes me want to bring me a higher love. I love that's like one of my favorite songs to get me in that high vibe state. So
that was like one of our wedding songs.
Of course.
I'm like Palafox dog when you said that. I'm like, that's the song that makes me just like.
I'll say it one more time. Don't worry. It'll be through.
But I'm hearing what you're saying, loving it, and that just made me want to have a moment with you guys.
Okay. I love that. No, more of that. So with the higher love, and it's just like, we often talk about like what are the rules of engagement, right? With the higher love that's conscious, and that if you choose to kind of have this type of relationship, it's like first and foremost understanding that like both are understanding that like, hey, we're both committed to growth, right? Like me individually, her individually, because it's always the man in the mirror and the woman in the mirror. Like it takes two to tango. Like, and so we both know that like she has work to do, I have work to do, and so the next thing is, okay, so the first rule of engagement is that we're both committed to growth, right? Second thing is the understanding that triggers are gifts, right? And so that when she gets triggered, she understands that there's something inside of her that hasn't been healed yet. I understand that if I get triggered by something she says or something that happened or whatever, that there's something within me that hasn't been healed yet. So, and a lot of people don't just understand that and realize that. And how is that the situation, right? There's a whole workshop on that. There's it's a long conversation to like explain that out. And we can if we want to right now, if we want to, but we both then understand that, okay, we understand that triggers are gifts. And if that happens, then it's something within us, right? Mm-hmm. So if she gets triggered or something happens, we're about to be kid on kid or adult kid, whatever the situation that you describe, if Rachel's being triggered and stuff, I know there's something going on and it's not about me. It's with her. I could have done something, whatever, but she knows that something's going on. I will then do my best to then, this is the third thing, create a space where she feels safe, seen, heard, and loved. At that point, nothing else matters because there's fire happening. There's an argument about to happen. There's a trigger that's here. And so I know there's a trigger here. my job is to create a safe space where she feels safe, seen, heard, and loved. Same thing with me. If I'm getting triggered, or if I'm in my ego and defensiveness and there's something happening within me, Rachel will do the same thing for me. So then that's like a big thing, right? And so, but then these are kind of principles, but of course, then you got to learn like, well, how do you create a safe space? A lot of people don't know how to create a safe space. And, one piece of it would be being vulnerable, right? Like if Rachel shares something me in a trigger state, I would say something like, babe, it seems like you're going through a lot. That must have been very hard for you to share, whatever it may be. I'm like, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for whatever it may be. I'm like, thank you for sharing. I want to acknowledge that she took that time, and not just like it's a statement. Like I really want to seek to understand what she's going through because she's a human. She's my wife. I love her. Why wouldn't I want her to feel safe, seen, heard, and loved? Obviously, when we're an ego, we just want to like, oh, you're right. But like we do our best to rep the muscles of like, my love is hurting right now. Why wouldn't I want to like do my best to be a divine masculine and just say, whatever, doesn't matter. Like, just let me see her. Because I know if I do that, she's going to be like, walls down, defenses down, arms, everything out. And then it's like, oh my God. And so it's like, oh, we don't have to like attack. It's like, even though I want to do something, I know that if I do that, she'll be like, oh yeah, oh my gosh. And then it's a beautiful connection. We can really have a better conversation and vice versa. Right. So I think like what's important is because there's always going to be that. There's life and stressors and kids and work and all this stuff. And so no matter how much we evolve or get better as humans and spirits and all this stuff, it's like, there's always going to be something. So I think like the book that we're writing, levels. And you master this level and then you go to the next level and then there's stuff there. And so I think it's really important that like people just understand like, okay, what are the rules of engagement that we can agree upon, and can we
for growth.
So the agreement for growth, understanding that triggers are gifts, and we can just make it simple because there's like 4, 5, 6. You can keep going down. But the third one, so the third one would be just create a safe space.
Yes.
Where that other person feels safe, seen, heard, and loved. The bonus I would just add to kind of wrap it up in a nice little present is basically so we have this game of like whoever owns their shit basically wins. So you're sort of tricking the ego. So like if we all know what we've done.
So
and like
made
what
it like a fun game. Yeah. Are there points?
So we just gave
it
right. There should be.
We kind of do it like in a fun way, but yeah, it's like basically whoever owns their shit first wins.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about this game is it does trick your ego because your ego wants to win. Your ego wants to be right. So in that moment where you're like, because sometimes if one person is just triggered, it's one thing. The other person can hold space. But usually what happens is that person's triggered and then they attack. And then the other person gets triggered. And it's like, and then you could be like attacking, fire on fire, just escalating. And like the littlest stupid thing blows up into the hugest fight.
Yeah.
And I think it's realizing that every trigger is an opportunity for a complete blowout or way deeper connection than you've had before. Mm-hmm. It's always either one. And you get to choose each time. Do I want blowout or do I want deeper connection? Mm-hmm. And so this game of who can own their shit first tricks the ego so that you're like, if I can be the first one, like I win the game.
So you win by being like, oh, sorry, I was triggered because I'm a child.
I'll just be real with you. Like yesterday, right? Like we had a little thing yesterday going on, and early this morning while we were having breakfast out, looking at the lake, just relaxing, being together, she was still in a beautiful way holding on to something because she chose not to bring it up last night because I was like in ego last night. I was in my kid self last night, right? And not all the time, but there were some moments where I was, and I was saying some things to her that hurt her a little bit. And she shared that during, and we talked about it, and we did what we just shared, but there was still some residue, right? So Rachel this morning kind of released that residue and was like, hey, by the way, I was feeling hurt with this. I felt like when you were saying this, that you didn't, it felt like you didn't, and what we do too is like the story I have in my head.
Yeah, the story I'm telling myself is
like,
so it's not like you did it.
Is that like you didn't, the story I have in my head is that you didn't like care what I was saying, or that you didn't acknowledge that I was hurt. And you were saying things like that you always cook and all this kind of stuff, and just some attacks, let's just call them, that I was attacking Rachel on, right? Because I was in defense and I was in ego at a certain point. And Rachel said that, and I listened to her, and of course I said, thank you so much for sharing. And I was honest about that because she was going through something. And I honestly really am glad that she shares, because a lot of humans can hold things down, keep them for a long time, and have resentment, and then all of a sudden they wait, and then a year, 2 years later, they blow up on some big thing, and it's like, because it was this thing that they never got under the rug. They never got it out of the rug. It's like, get it all out.
And that's poison. Like, that's
I say you either blow up, or like you get really sick and you get a disease,
or that you're holding on to it.
So it's gonna
come out somewhere.
Yeah.
It will.
But like, I think initially when you practice these things, they can be hard, right? It's hard to like go against ego. It's very hard. But just like anything else, we do see it as a muscle. So the more that you rep it, and we've repped it, and we do our best to practice what we preach, right? Is to rep. So that muscle has become big. And not to say that we're perfect, but it's just, you rep it a lot, things can get actually easier. It really can. So when she shared that, I'm like, all I want is to love and have a beautiful day. And like, I want her to feel seen, safe, heard, and loved. You are my love. Like, I chose you. Like, you're everything to me. So if you're feeling this type of way, like, I want to do everything that I can to make her get back to like alignment. And so because of those reps, I'm just like, you were right, babe. Like, I was totally attacking you. I totally said that. That was not true. I was hurt, and I was feeling like I was just shameful at that time. And I definitely did that. You know? And she's like, wow, you know, like, and it's just, and it's not an ego thing. It's just like, say what you did. You know that, like, I was being passive aggressive back then. I was being passive aggressive. Yeah. And you know, I don't know why I was, or maybe you do know why. And you can say, hey, how can I support you right now? Or, I don't know, I got to go be by myself for a moment, or whatever the communication is. But I think we do have that game. We practice it as much as we can. And it's done wonders. And it was what Rachel said.
So you won today.
Yeah. Woo!
I won yesterday.
And you won yesterday. Yeah. We won.
We all did. And this is what we
we both win in that sense. We both win.
Because really, if
the relationship rises.
The relationship rises, and everything feeds each other. Because when one person, as soon as one person is just like, can breathe through all of the shit that's coming up, and see the person in front of them as their little kid self that's just hurting. Like, they're just hurting. Even if they're spewing anger at you, you can like, it's literally have to be like put on a different lens. You know, you put on different glasses, and you master looking at people from that lens instead of just seeing the anger that's coming at you. And just being like, I could see that you're hurting, you know, and I just want to love you. Like, how can I support you through this? It's just like this diffusion.
Oh, big diffusion. Rachel does an incredible job at that.
And it has taken me a long time to get there, to be able to hold so much space for that. And also these boundaries that you have as well, because there's a big difference between holding space for someone and coming with love and acceptance and non-judgment, and also having your own boundaries of like, I will not be taken advantage of. I will not be walked over.
Yes. Like
standing up for the kind of person you want to be, because I think I've seen people be like, oh, but I'm just coming from a place of love. And they're not speaking their truth. They're not standing up for themselves.
Yeah.
They're creating resentment. They're creating smallness. And that's not what we're saying. So it's being able to navigate and dance with both. And I do think it is a dance, and it is a freaking workout every time. And it's a muscle that you build and you get better and better at.
I love that game. That's even just in your own personal relationship with yourself. Like, the faster you just kind of get real with it, you still win. And
we both win at the end of the day, you know. So,
no, but I love that you said that even with yourself, like that honesty, the game within yourself.
Yes.
Because the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with you.
100%.
Like, and the more I've learned how to truly hold space for myself, love myself, let that little kid inside me that is hurting, I just love the shit out of them and give them the love that they are craving. Then I'm not projecting all that stuff onto other people, friends, family, intimate partners, business partners. I'm able to just love on me, give that little kid the love that they're craving. And then they no longer are seeking the attention, validation, all of this, or wanting to spew anger or hate on other people to get that attention in some way. So I think, it's
Well, I think that's a beautiful,
like crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think we talk about this a lot too. I think humanity might think that this is a crazy statement, but like loving yourself and like doing you and really nurturing you and taking care of you is the best thing that you can do for your relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like loving you, like loving myself so much first
is loving me.
Is loving you.
It is.
Right? Like loving me is loving
on
you.
Instagram and you like clapped it and it said like, I think it was Ram Dass, where it was like, the best gift I could give to me is...
The best gift I could give to you is to work on me, and the best gift you could
100%.
do is to work on you. 100%.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. I think that's like, if that's like
everything.
mic drop kind of thing on any relationship, because then your cup starts to overflow, and that overflow can like go to friends and family and relationships, right? I think.
But I do think that's one of the hardest gifts or confusions is that it's hard. It's brave work to face yourself.
Yeah.
Like it is brave work.
Yes.
And oftentimes the easier thing to do is to go do something else and get it from somewhere else, like social media or like going, having a conversation with someone, just doing anything else but facing yourself, basically.
Yeah. I need a distraction. Insert said thing.
Yes.
We all do it.
Yeah. Yes. And so, but it is that, like, if you can just face it, rip the Band-Aid off and like go in and make that part of you that feels scared or hurt or angry or resentful, just learning what it really looks like for each person listening. Like, because I think it's a unique thing that we all have to figure out. Like, what does it really look like for me to love me?
Yeah.
And I think that's like ever expanding, ever changing. I think
what does it look like to love me today?
Versus 10 years from now. And that is like probably like your number one thing. Like, what does that look like to really love on me today? And I love this phrase of like, love yourself enough to have the hard conversation. Love yourself enough to go do the workout. Like, not because you're trying to punish yourself, but because you just want to nourish and love you. Love yourself enough to go on the adventure that scares you, because you might die tomorrow and you want to live. Like, love yourself enough to take care of you, even when it's really hard. And
love yourself enough to say no to a relationship or to end a relationship, or say yes to a relationship, like, depending on what chapter you're in, right? Like, I mean, for me, I remember, I won't get too deep into it, but it's like, we were just talking about this morning. Like, I remember being I went through so many toxic relationships before I met Rachel, right? Like, and to continuously work on myself to become the man to attract a woman like Rachel. And one of them in particular, I remember 3 months in, so many red flags, but like went into the relationship anyway. And then like almost like every other weekend wanted to break up because there was constant fights. I was also doing a lot of drugs and alcohol at that time and just was living in toxic environments. So was she. And it was just this like whirlwind of pain and suffering for each other. Like, it was just the worst, right? Like every other weekend, if not every weekend, for 3 years it lasted. And I should have ended it probably less than 3 months, if not 3 weeks. And the only reason I bring that up is because, you get what you tolerate. And like, I tolerated so much, so did she. And I didn't love myself enough, honestly, to say like, we can't do this. I can't do this to myself anymore. I can't do this to you. We can't do this to each other. Like, I have to walk away. We have to walk away, and we were just dating, for the 3 years. But I think like for me in my story, it's like, or at least one of them, I didn't love myself at that point because I would have chosen differently. Because you can choose differently. You can choose every day to say no to something and yes to something.
Which is such a gulp to say, like, that was toxic. I was in that for 3 years and I chose that. Because I think of people listening now that are in that situation, that cycle. We've all been there. I would say, go out to sit, and then to own your shit and say, I'm choosing what I'm getting. And this repeat record, I'm keeping press and play on.
Yes.
And I love those gold moments because, I've gotten good at them. And that also makes me think of literally the title of this podcast, because it's called Self-Love and Sweat. And I started it as a different version of myself, much more into fitness, the workouts,
Yes.
right? But now I like to say I'm into the work-ins. Like it's not just both workouts,
Yes.
work-ins, and self-love is what we're just talking about. And sweat initially was workouts, like the, you know, but now for me, it's like those moments where you're like, gotta face that. I'm sweaty and I'm going to do it anyways. And I'm like,
totally.
Next level, new things, new scaries, new stuff to like, you know, overcome. And so,
it's the inner gym. Like you are in one of the hardest workouts of your life when you're doing the work-ins. Like,
I like the work-ins.
It is wild. Well, and just like Emilio, I had the same stories. I mean, I had several relationships I knew were wrong for me, like so quick in. I couldn't for years. Like, just like red flag, just knocking them out of the way. And again, like it's so hard to understand while you're in it. So while you're in it, you're just like, why am I going through this? Like, why does it have to be so hard? Why is it so confusing? Like, why can't I just know the answers? And I think if you're really, really, really honest with yourself, you do know the answer. You're just too scared to face it and to do it because it's really hard. It's hard. It's hard to go through a breakup. It's hard to be alone. It's hard to navigate through like the grief because it's grief. Like you're letting go of not only a version of you, but that person because they're no longer, you're saying, hey, like I got to step away. Like and it's a big ego play too. Cause I think a lot of times we are like, oh, at least in my story, I'm like, yeah, but I need to help them. I need to save them. They're struggling. And oftentimes I would attract these guys that I always felt like I was like pulling them up the mountain with me. And then I was like, why do I keep attracting into my life? And I was like, well, because I have this part of me that feels like I have to save people. And so, of course, I'm attracting that into my life because I have that deep-rooted story in me that it's my job to save people.
Yeah.
And it's not my job to save people. It's my job to save me.
Yeah.
And it was the learning of what that looks like, again, of like, what does it really mean to love me? Because it's really hard to love you. And it's sometimes easier to just love everybody else. But that love that you're giving to everybody else is not really a healthy love because you can only give away what you have. And if you don't have it for yourself, like an orange can only squeeze out orange juice. It can't squeeze out lemon juice. So whatever you got inside of you is what you're giving. And oftentimes we'll call that like, if you have a conditional love for yourself, you probably have conditional love for other people. If you can create that really divine, higher, unconditional love for yourself, where everything you've done, gone through, experienced, it's all okay. Like it's all okay. And I've done some terrible shit. So like to be able to be like, I forgive you. I love you. It's okay. And I'm not ashamed anymore. And I'm not living in this shameful spiral. There's a quote that I love that says like, get rid of shame. It will not add, or get rid of guilt and shame. It will not add a smile, $1, or an ounce to any of your days. Like there serves no purpose other than making you feel miserable and making everybody else in your life miserable. And I mean, I think forgiveness work is some of the most important work. And we've actually been on a really intense retreat called 40 Years of Zen, where we spent like 7 days basically just straight doing forgiveness work. Like with no technology, no distractions, basically you in a pod by yourself.
Right, a lot of technology.
I'm saying, you're hooked up to neurofeedback the whole time. So it's tracking your brainwaves and what's happening, which is super cool. But I meant like,
but you're not
no
like
phones, there's no phone, and not even like for any part of the day. Like for 7, you are completely out for like a week. No stimulants, no nothing.
How nice.
Yeah. Totally.
It was amazing.
I love this world. It's how we got to, meet who we met, get to it. But sometimes I think what that could be like. And it's great to, create containers to do that.
I think it's so important. I think oftentimes that's what our souls are craving. But it also makes you face yourself. And wherever you go, there you are. And when you have no distractions, you really face yourself. But this forgiveness work, I mean, we were spending on one thing, like hours, like, and crying and screaming and shaking and like somatic work and like just getting all out of your system. And reframing every little thing that ever happened to you where you thought it was a terrible, bad thing. And you get to this place where you're so grateful for that thing. Like not even just forgiving and letting it go, but like you were like, wow, I am so grateful that dark, crazy, ugly thing happened to me, because now through this work, I see the gifts that it gave me. And these gifts are superpowers. And I realize now that probably that was the way I had to learn them. And maybe I wouldn't have learned them any other way. And it is the reason why I'm able to show up in the world the way I am now. And so, wow, I'm really grateful for this thing and this person that I used to hold a lot of like anger or hate to. And now I just have complete love for them and or yourself. Like, you also do a lot of forgiveness work on ourselves too. But anyways, that whole other topic, but that kind of work I think is just like one of the most powerful things you can do.
Because when you forgive those moments, it's like you're owning your story. And instead of like wishing it was a different way, it's like, I do this one forgiveness meditation, the Ho'oponopono.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love this one.
But that's like a few minutes. Like that's not 7 days of deep forgiveness work. And so my mind is going like a few Ho'oponoponos. I'm like feeling real good. So imagining going into to that. But those scenarios and situations where you still hold those ties and
no, go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. You're next.
No, I was just, when you brought that up, I think you don't necessarily need to go to something like 40 years of Zen because it's a thing. But what was cool about that, though, with the technology applied to the head, was that like you can, and it was sort of, if anybody listening knows, like alpha. Are you familiar with different brainwave states?
Totally. Yeah,
okay, cool.
We can go there
right. So there's like beta, alpha, theta, delta, et cetera, gamma. So this one was more of an alpha training, because you can go to like a theta training and alpha. So it was more of alpha. So you got to kind of through sound neurofeedback, you can kind of start to understand when you're in alpha. And they wanted you to be in alpha because in an alpha brainwave state, it's a very versatile state, and you can get a lot of healing done. There's a lot of like rewiring that can happen in your brain in an alpha state. And so what was really cool is that while we're going through certain techniques to clear whatever it was in the past, or to clear whatever, it's best to be in that alpha state, right? And so you would go through the clearing, let's say, and if you and you knew that you were in an alpha state because you would hear these gongs, like gong, gong.
There's a lot of neurofeedback.
And the more alpha that you were in, the more this gong, and it was getting really just the production of the gongs and everything really became loud. So while you were doing it, you know that you were doing it right, and you can continue to go in. So
that's so encouraging.
So it's very encouraging that you know that you're actually doing it. It's almost like if I'm like, I'm going to kind of go a side parallel for a moment. Let's say I'm like, hey, I did this, and I'm really sorry I did that. And it's like, you're not really sorry. Like, your nervous system knows if you're really sorry or not, or if you really forgave that person. So if you did the whole clearing and you're not hearing gongs, you weren't being for real.
Yeah.
You didn't really clear it.
You didn't forgive.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't really clear, or whatever it was. It was a lot of forgiveness, but there was also a whole bunch of other things too.
For sure.
So whatever clearing we were doing, not only were the gongs like could tell you if you're really doing it right, but then also you could see the graphs after the session. You're literally in this pod, black pod, like closed eyes, weighted blanket, like in this black pod and doing this work. And then you would go, and then afterwards you can see the graphs. And you're like, okay, so this is when you were doing that, or when we told you to do that. And no, you weren't in that. So you got to go back and do it again. You know what I mean? Essentially, you would go through like a therapy session, coaching session, whatever. And then it's like, okay, Emilio, and then it would go one-on-one. And then you have to go back in the pod and work on X, Y, Z again, because I can see in the graphs that you didn't do it. And you probably know for yourself that you didn't hear the gongs while you're going through it. So it's kind of, there's so many incredible things about that retreat. But one of the cool things was like knowing what you're in.
Built-in accountability.
Yeah. And then afterwards, when you left, like let's say even now, like if I'm going through a clearing in my head or whatever practice or a Ho'oponopono or whatever it is, I know what it feels like to be in an alpha state because we practiced for so long. So now I'm like, let's get an alpha state and then let's do whatever work. And then I can tell now so much because we did it so many times that like I know now what alpha feels like. And I know when I can get into it when I slip out of alpha. So that's kind of really cool if people are interested in that technological kind of getting hooked up to the brainwave, getting hooked up to the brain and doing the work in that sense. It's kind of a cool other type of retreat.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear more about it because I remember when you guys shared stuff on social media about it and how transformative it felt for you guys. And I just forgot to ask you about it. And then we get to talk about it now. It's so cool. And I love the brain. I just think it's so amazing. And when you really get to learn how to tune in and tap into, like you said, different brainwave states, and when you're there, and and you feel the change, and it is. I love how you said put in the reps within your repetition. I mean, within your relationships, you have repetition of showing up, but also like we can change. Like our brains can change, and so
big.
I always say, I say this with a big hug, but stuck is a choice, right? You might be going the scenic route in some way, but there's actually like a different pathway. And we get so convinced that like what we're creating is so fucking real. It's like, actually there's ways to rewire that map. And it's so liberating and cool to be able to experience that together in a retreat, all of that. And that's why I just love to keep going, because I'm like, my little puny brain is limited. I'm like, there's more. Like there's other ways to tap in and rewire and
Gosh,
it sounds so fun.
It's so real too. It's just, one of our favorite teachers is Wayne Dyer, and one of his quotes.
Saw some of your books.
Some of the books.
Like, love Wayne Dyer.
I'm obsessed.
Shout out to Wayne Dyer.
I love him so much.
We love him.
Maybe he's with us. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I even think about my last year here when we were first moving. I was really going through like a lot of complex stuff, both like transitioning to a new place, felt like I was transitioning to a new chapter of life. I was dealing with all my freakouts of like getting older and having more wrinkles and my body not feeling as light or as fit or as young as it used to, and what that meant in my acting career, and am I ready to go into motherhood? And what does that mean for me? And am I just going to become a boring Utah mom? And is my career over? And like, am I not as valuable because I don't feel like I'm as pretty as I used to be? Like just all this dark shit that just spiraled. And the wild thing is I felt like all of last year I had lots of, the roller coaster of life, ups and downs, where they kind of got better and I did work, and then I kind of like went down again, and then I got better and I did work. And also as females, we're very cyclical. So and every month I go through like my
that's our roller
death
coaster.
and rebirth, like every month. I think another huge thing in looking for relationships is understanding that dynamic, and also calling in having a partner that can really hold space for you through that. Because bless this man, like holding the space that he does. It just knows that like, okay, my work is just holding you, letting you cry, and I don't do anything else. I just like hold you and let you cry, and that's all I need, and that's all I'm craving, and that's hard work for him, like for any human, because you're like,
or used to,
and stuff can come up. But anyways, the biggest thing I want to say is like through a lot of this work, though, one, it's not linear. It's not like you do something and all of a sudden like it can come back in different chapters in different ways, but I had these deep beliefs that like my value is associated to what I look like, and that came from like childhood and different things with my mom and what I saw, and not just what people told me growing up, because we don't take in what we hear, we take in what we saw. And I saw behaviors of like picking apart your body and saying that you're fat and ugly, even though you look, to me, they were beautiful. And so my little me was like, oh, that's how we be in the world. Like that's what you're supposed to be. And that's also when you have a deep belief, there's this part of you that's like, well, everybody thinks this, like everybody lives this way. And then when you go and share these things and you realize, no, actually, like people don't have this belief at all. And their reality is so different because they don't have that belief. And so going in there and being like, oh, I can read. Excuse me. No, bless you.
Bless you. Oh, two, just like Rachel. Rachel's got to do two. Rachel's a tour.
But ultimately, that any belief that we have, if it's not serving us and we want to change it, we really can. And when we do that work to change it at like a cellular, like unconscious level, your whole world is completely different. Like nothing. I'm actually technically older than I was last year, but I feel younger, freer, prettier, more valuable than I ever have because I changed those beliefs. And my whole life feels different. Like it just feels there's so much more space and it's so much more peaceful. And I walk through the world and people are like, wow, you're like glowing. And I'm like,
I was going to say, it exudes you and then it penetrates into your relationship and all of those other areas.
Work, but it also is self-affirming. So like when you're stuck in that place, people can feel that energy. And no wonder why I wasn't booking as many jobs. So I was affirming that belief that my value is associated to the way I look. And so people don't like me anymore because I don't look the same, or because I'm not as young. So then that a belief gets reaffirmed, and vice versa. And this belief that I'm in now of like, no, I'm in my prime, and like I'm in the best thing ever.
Your belief.
Living my belief. And then all of a sudden I'm attracted, because I'm exuding that energy, people can feel that. And then I'm attracting all this abundance and all this. And then that affirms that belief. So it's just either way, like our minds are so freaking powerful. It's wild.
So powerful and so cool. I want to talk about, and I don't know the name, but I just know you're doing something new with a therapy, and it's movement based, and you invited me to come to something and I couldn't make it, and I'm excited to come, but tell me more about that.
I've been working, it's definitely like a deep soul calling. Right now we're calling it expression therapy.
Expression therapy.
Okay.
Therapy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've gone back and forth a lot. So I'm like, is it dance therapy? Is it expression therapy? What is it? And it's ultimately these kind of a program that I'm working on, and live experiences that I do where I take people through all different kinds of forms of expression. Because I feel like in my life, the biggest thing that I have felt when I feel stuck, because when you get stuck, it's really hard. And the things that have helped me out of it was like understanding that I could hear all the cool things in the world. Like I could hear all the great podcasts and the books and the quotes and the phrases. And on some level, I'd understand it logically. But I was like, how come I'm not able to embody it though? Like I'm not embodying it. And why do I feel like there's these blocks there still? And so when I learned, I'm like, wait, my whole life I've been using these tools of dance and singing and or sound expression and or writing and journaling or breath work or guided meditation, or all these forms of different, using every sense that you have to express everything that is within you so that it is no longer suppressed, it is expressed. And that humans, we want to feel expressed and witnessed in that expression. And when you are able to have that in a full spectrum experience of every workshop I do where everything has a specific topic that we go in around, and there's specific journal prompts. So you're writing out and you're expressing all that bullshit that's in your mind. You're getting it out on paper. You're slowing your brain down so you can actually see it. And then if people share it and they feel witnessed in that. And then we go into breath work and somatic movement and we're using music as well that is aligned with that theme. So it's all kind of this holistic experience. And then in the dance, we're learning actually dance moves that are related to that same theme and that same mantra. And we're singing out these intentions that are the songs that I'm choosing are very intentional. And a lot of the lyrics are basically saying a lot of phrases that are helping with whatever the topic is. So you're singing, you're expressing in sound, you're expressing in movement, you're expressing in writing, you're expressing in the Ho'oponopono prayer and eye gazing in other people and getting to feel witnessed in that. And it's awesome. It's so freaking powerful.
It's all the things you love and use, and then you get to
and guided meditation, and really just I feel like I used all those tools to manifest whatever you want to say, create, manifest, overcome. Not only playing the lead role in the sequels of the film that changed my life, which was the catalyst to my whole acting career, and since then have done 45 films and have some really cool ones coming out this year. As well as
I loved going to Alien.
Oh yeah, that was so fun.
I went on a solo date to watch. I bought popcorn.
You're so cute.
I did the whole thing.
I love her,
and it was so good, and it was really funny. And you're really funny. I'm sure you played other roles. I haven't seen other films. I'm excited to watch more, but that one was really cute and so entertaining. I loved every minute of it.
And so and thank you so much. When you showed up, I was like, I love her. The fact that you drove that far and showed up, it was just like another world.
It was so fun.
So
that theater was really cute too. It was really all, right? It was kind of old school and just in a little corner, nice and quaint. And so there were a lot of people. It was packed, and you did a lot of different premieres for that.
We did a lot of different premieres, and that was, a film that I starred and produced, and it's a big passion project and labor of love. But as you know, in the creative process, anything you ever create, it's way harder than you think it's going to be usually when it comes, especially when you're making movies or making a podcast, or there's just so many hurdles that you have to overcome. And I think but I do feel like we're all here to create, and we all have this unique magic, and the world needs it. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we can really get in our own way. I have gone in my own way so many times. And these are the tools I go to. And I was like, I want to combine them all into one so that people can go and basically just get this full everything that's in them that may be stuck or suppressed, and get it out through all the ways, both somatic, writing, sound, and singing. And all the tools are like not for what it looks like, but everything about how it makes you feel, how it helps you process challenging emotion. Because my life as a competitive dancer and actress and gymnast, all these tools were taught to me in a way of like, it's about being perfect. It's about how it looks. And I somehow discovered that I was like, wait, but this is so much more than that. Like this is, because I would be navigating all these feelings of not feeling good enough or never being the best like I wanted to be, or like all these different stuff. And I would just go in a dark room and I would dance my face off, and I would like scream and cry and shout and dance. And by the end of it, I felt so fucking powerful. And I was like, wait, this is like magic. And I want the world to be able to feel that and understand that. And it doesn't matter if people are like, oh, but I'm not a good dancer. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, and actually you probably are a really good dancer. It's just like owning your uniqueness in it. And you probably never even gone to a class. You didn't even know. Like, you didn't know what it is yet. I just invented it. Come here. So yeah. So that's one of the things I think under Relationship Renegades, he's doing a lot of like men's work in his own kind of magic, and I'm doing my own kind of magic, and just bringing it all together under one umbrella. Yeah.
Magic. For sure. Yeah. I just feel like that what you're describing of your events, and even like what you guys are doing, is that full embodiment of like processing and becoming, and processing and becoming. My friend Austin often says like that you know, to get to where you are in those moments, it's like the person that you have to become in order to create that, in order to do that is that work that we've been just talking about a ton, you know, today. And then wherever you're at now, it's like, yeah, that whole becoming process is huge. And that's oftentimes why people just and like mediocre, like, you know, no judgment, but not doing that for myself, right? Where you just are like, stay stuck and choose to stay stuck, and you have those moments to get unstuck, and you're choosing to stay in that space. It's like that becoming process gets you to a very full embodiment expression of that. And I love that you're incorporating all of the senses, yourselves, each other, all the things. What are you guys most excited about right now that you're creating personally, professionally? What are you
I'll let you go
stoked about?
Just went.
Well, to keep the theme of Relationship Renegades, because I mean, we're in the team in film wellness and then relationships. To stick with relationships, we just hired a YouTube team to like. Normally, we've just been on like Instagram and Facebook, and we really haven't. We used to be on YouTube when we used to have our own radio show, and we did that for a long time. And we've kind of just like for many years have just like stopped there and just didn't do anything with it. But we've always been excited about like creating like our own Saturday Night Live, but for relationships. You know, we love comedy. You know, we're always just being ridiculous together at the house and playing with like improv and comedy sketches and just like having fun with each other. And we love comedy because it just can break down walls, and you can see deep-seated principles in there. If something's funny, people share that. It can create virality. So I think we're excited, or I'm excited about getting to work starting actually next week with that YouTube team, and really starting to develop a schedule to where on one aspect we'll have, of course, comedy sketches that you'll see just every single week. But two, we'll also have like a live sort of radio show, if you will, where people can come to the live event. We'll do the comedy sketches there, but also people can come and be on the hot seat where we can kind of, you know, coach them like just live hot seat kind of situation. And then the third thing that'll be sort of in the near future, but a little down the line, sort of having our own production in terms of we'll have our own movies that we create from Relationship Renegades, but then also one of the YouTube people, part of the team really wants us to create a show, and they're going to help us with it to create our like, you know how they have like Love on the Island, or I don't even know what
like
reality shows, you know? But like more of like getting couples over there to sort of live like how to become like, you know, they'll learn the principles and the tools and everything. Yeah. And like, you know, the winner that basically abides by those, follows those, is able to embody those together individually and collect, right? They'll get like a big prize, right? You win $1 million.
Wholesome reality.
Right? Yeah. It's like a wholesome reality. Not like some drama.
You and
oh, gosh.
And you're
no.
like, and I'm like,
I know, you're like, what?
We'll just have like fun. Yeah.
My favorite show to watch on YouTube is and not that I'm excited to watch what you guys create, but is the Fireplace channel. So I play the Fireplace channel.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. The snack crackle pops.
That's the best.
I try to go through those shows, but I'm excited for what you guys do, because bringing relationships together and having them connect and dive deep and heal and feel sounds
like if you could like learn these tools by watching other people do it, but it's almost like Survivor for relationships, but you have to activate the tools to be able to overcome these challenges
and
together,
team up to overcome
and see how people navigate their triggers and how they utilize these tools and how it can be super helpful, or if they're not able to, and what they do then, and just I think it'd be super, super fun. So we're excited about that.
So collectively, I would say that's what I'm excited about, going into the next phase, because like the previous phases were all traditional model, which is like the coaching, the speaking, the events, retreats, online programs, and those are all great, but you can only reach so much people with that. And because our vision is to co-create a world where healthy relationships are the new norm, that's like a huge vision. It may not come across, it may not even happen in my generation. It might be my son's generation, or my son's son's, or our son's generation, right? Or our daughter's generation. But it's like, when we think about like, okay, what really can move the needle, right? Like media is a huge programmer, right? Like the CIA used media to like program society. Like there's like, media is such a big thing, right? And so it's like, well, how do we just, because we're also the TV and film, how can we just go more to the creative model? And like, not that we need to program people, but like haven't seen, their nervous system hasn't seen a healthy, happy, peaceful, playful relationship. And if your nervous system hasn't been in those experiences and witnessed those things, then you think it's impossible. You know, especially if you go through heartbreak and some trauma stuff, whatever, you're replaying the same movie over and over in your life, then you're like, you think it's impossible. Like, that's never going to be me. I'm losing hope. Like, I can't open up my heart again. And it's like, no, like you can, and it can be more beautiful. And like, you deserve a higher love, a divine love, a beautiful, conscious, high vibe relationship. And I think like, we just want to be a beacon for that. And we're not the relationship renegades, by the way. Like, you're a relationship renegade. We want to highlight all the relationship renegades out there that are doing the work, so that society and media and can see, like, they're just starting to see more of that. Right. And it's just
we're saturated with the media, period. So we're just getting, immersed in something and shifting that narrative so people can experience it. And
because that was the biggest thing for me. I didn't see it growing up.
I never saw.
My parents, bless them, our parents didn't have the tools that we have now. Like the resource, the access to this kind of information.
They did their best.
Like, everyone's always doing their best with what they have. I just feel like because of the internet and social media and all these different people who study and put out this beautiful relationship work, it's just so much more accessible. Like, it is out there, you can find it. Anyway. It wasn't like that before. And so now I just think it's such a beautiful time to be able to, but in the past, all kind of like Hollywood type relationships where it was all about like the breakups and the divorce. And even when we first started dating, a big question, it was like, well, you're an actress, because he wasn't even really acting at the time we got together, which is a whole another beautiful story of what healthy partnership can do, can like bring out all these gifts that maybe we had suppressed. But what if in all the magazines and the media, we were seeing all these beautiful, healthy, supportive relationships out there? Like, how different would the world be if instead of seeing all these like tabloids of people that were like having all this drama and what they did to each other and how terrible and toxic it is, that just kind of becomes our reality, and we think that's what the norm is. Like, how different would it be? Because it's out there. Like,
and it's just so subliminal too. Like, you're moving. It's like the dad's always like the dumb-witted, like, oh, I'm an idiot, and this and that.
And the wife's always like the naggy wife that just is like bitchy. And
I mean, there's like various examples, right? That's like maybe one of the many.
Like there are these like stereotypes that actually are quite reality in a lot of ways.
And it's like, and you can show the opposite. And there are some beautiful shows now that I think are doing a great job of teaching principles in a very entertaining way. I just think we're really passionate about creating edutainment. You can learn these principles in a fun, relatable way.
And you'll absorb it better too. Speaking of the brain, it's like you're having fun and it's beautiful. You're taking it in. And I love that vision you guys are creating. And to what you said of like, you can only do so much in this traditional way. And then you have to, I read this book recently or listened to it because I love Audible. 10x is easier than 2x, where it's the
totally.
mindset to double things doesn't even hold a candle to the mindset you need to 10x things. And if you're like, okay, this is my mission and goal, and it's not just words, and I want to bring legs to it of being the new norm. Well, the new norm is quite the majority of, a lot of people's lives. And so, it made me, think of that, of just going to that next level in your relationship, in your business and all of that. What are you most excited about right now? Would you tack on to that?
Definitely that. I think also just really excited about life. I think I'm just really in a state of, because I think I did go through a really hard year last year. And usually when you come out of really challenging chapters, it's like, you realize how, man, I think that was the greatest gift. I'm really grateful for just life. I just think because every day, and the space that I'm in now, and all the younger versions of me that worked so hard and had to be so brave, I'm really, really fucking proud of them. And that feels really good. So I think I'm just really excited about the wholeness that I feel that I worked really hard to get to.
Go team.
Go team.
I love you guys. Before we sign off, where can we find you? What's your guys'? And we'll link everything, but just say it verbally so those that are like.
Well, I guess I should also mention like a little plug of, I am also very excited about a big film that I have coming out this year called Legend of the White Dragon.
Legend of the White Dragon?
Legend of the White Dragon.
Legend of the White Dragon.
I play the main female superhero character in, which was a big dream come true for me because I always wanted to embody those like badass female action hero characters. Such a special story. The message of the film is that even superheroes need help too, which I think is a very resonant message that we all need. And my dear friend who played the main guy in it that I play opposite, Jason David Frank, sadly is no longer with us. He ended up taking his life right after we finished the film. It was really hard. It was very shocking. A lot of people, myself included, were devastated. And I feel him often, and I'm very close with his daughter and his wife, who are also his daughters in the movie. And it has been such a journey of healing. But I think it will be very, very, very impactful. I know a lot of people are very excited about the film. It's been like 4 years in the making. So, I'm just really, so it'll be coming out most likely this summer, fall-ish. But very excited about that, and the huge mental health initiative that is associated with the film because of what happened and the very real story that I hope will, because on set, Jason and I talked about that all the time, just wanting to use this film as a way to share our stories and inspire people and help as many people as possible. And I feel like obviously it will look very different than I thought it would. But I do think it has the potential to help a lot of people who are really struggling, and hopefully that they feel really seen in it. And hopefully the ancillary work of the events and the Comic-Cons that we do, just want to just love on people. We need a lot more love, like real divine unconditional love, and where people feel safe, seen, heard, and loved. And I just want to do that as much as I possibly can. So excited about that. And you can find that. Our social media together is at relationship.renegades. And then mine is at Brooke Smith on Instagram. And
mine's at Emilio _Palafox _. But if you go to relationship.renegades, both of our individual profiles are there. And then all the links is basically on there of all the different things that we're up to. Especially since you brought up movies. We're going to be in a Christmas movie this Christmas. We got to how crazy surreal is it that we're playing leads in this rom-com Christmas movie and get to fall in love with my love all over again on the big screen, and just play on the big screen, you know? And so that'll be really cool coming out this Christmas.
Yeah, I'd be fun to do a whole other episode when that's more coming out and talk, because that's a whole other journey of like what it's like to work together and navigate
we should
process. And
we should for sure something seasonal, something for the holidays, holiday relationship stuff. And I'm excited to see that movie. I remember when you were making it. And like I said, I'm excited to check out more of what you guys create. And it's a pleasure to know you. I mean, to watch you and then to know you in the way that I have gotten to. So thank you guys for being here today and for your time and heart.
Thanks for having us.
More play together.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Peace, everybody. We love you.
Thanks, Emilio.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Every time that I have done 3 podcasts at home with people that can come here, you know, and at the end, I always love the hug afterwards. Courtney did an episode on domestic violence. Elisa talked about her leaving, you know, the church and self-expression. And so this table is magic.
Yes.
That's so cool.
The table.
The table. It's such a great,
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Self Love and Sweat the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or were inspired by it or something resonated with you, do me a favor and share this episode with a friend, someone that you think might enjoy this episode as well. That's the ultimate compliment and the best way to make this podcast ripple out into the world of others. And also you can leave us a review up to 5 stars wherever you're listening to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you at the next episode. I appreciate you.